The question isn't so much, do you have a problem with fraud, as much as it should be, are you prepared to deal with fraud when it comes in?
Educate your money now.
Hello, and welcome to Educating Your Money podcast. I'm your host, kirui-case, owner of Matt Nick Bookkeeping Services. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. Today's episode is called Fraud is More Than Just Fraud for the Business Owner. We will be discussing what is friendly fraud, how e-comm business owners can identify fraud, and what are some of those red flags. We would also like to thank Out and About Business Solutions for sponsoring our podcast. Today's guest is Alexander Hall. Alex is the owner of DisputeDefenseConsulting, which specializes in fraud mitigation consulting. In operation since late 2012, Alexander has worked with businesses of all sizes and industries. To date, his work has been successfully applied to over 400 million in transactions. Hello, Alex, and thank you for being on the show today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you, especially with this topic. With the growth of e-comm businesses since, the pandemic hit, so much has grown in that particular industry as far as business owners. And I'm pretty sure with the growth of online businesses is also the growth of probably online fraud or just fraud in general. So I'm pretty sure that e-comm businesses are now experiencing more fraud with their businesses being online, and many of them had to go online just to survive. So Alex, let's get right to it. How do you describe fraud, and how can you help the average business owner understand when it comes to fraud?
Okay. Well, typically the understanding of the term fraud is short-sighted. It only includes fraudsters that hide in dark places, scouring the dark web for stolen information, and then looking for a place to exploit for gain, right? So most of the workload produced by my company, Dispute Defense Consulting, consists of shedding light on the lesser known faces of fraud, such as policy exploits, marketing exploits, friendly fraud exploits, and many others, like return policy exploits, things like that.
Okay. And then how does a business owner know they need your services, and what are some of the red flags that they can look for?
Well, simply put, if a business owner has not proactively developed a strategy for fraud prevention, chargeback preparedness, and policy exploits, the security of their company is at great risk. For those business owners, I ask, would you wait to get insurance until after you're involved with a car accident? The question isn't so much, do you have a problem with fraud, as much as it should be, are you prepared to deal with fraud when it comes in? Consider the loss of a single $100 fraudulent transaction. When a chargeback is filed, the issuer takes the funds for the transaction back from the merchant, and then the processor charges an average of $15 just to notify the merchant. Another $15 processing fee is assessed in order to respond to the chargeback. This back and forth occurrence happens 2 times prior to going into pre-arbitration. Once it goes into arbitration, the loser pays an additional $275. So the single $100 transaction now costs the merchant upwards of $500 because they were not prepared to stop the transaction in the first place. So then, to answer your question about red flags, for the business owners who have already encountered fraud in their system, there are 3 main red flags that should indicate that it is time to speak to a professional. 1, the merchant's chargeback situation is not under control. 2, the merchant's staff does not have the knowledge they need to confidently and effectively identify counterfeit material, either at the point of sale or through transaction analysis for e-commerce stores. And then 3, the merchant is not seeing the results that they expect in operations, whether it's customer service appointing loyalty points for disgruntled customers, the returns department accepting unqualified returns, or the marketing department consistently missing the projected mark for sale through promotions. These are the most common signs that a company's soft spots have been exploited.
Okay, wow, that's some good information. So what can a business owner expect if they are in need of your services? So if someone calls and they say, hey, either I think or I want to prevent any fraud from happening? What can they expect when they need to?
Well, a business owner who needs my services but does not move forward in their development of a defense against fraud can expect many negative things to happen. The most likely is an all of a sudden increase in chargebacks stemming from a sudden increase of unchecked fraudulent transactions. This happens because fraudsters operate in a nasty way. When a fraudster finds a place where a specific type of fraud works, they immediately run to the dark web and tout about their success. That invites countless others to exploit the company in the same way. Considering that the average cost per single dollar charged back equates between $2.30 for every dollar, or $3.13 for every dollar in losses to the merchant, the losses can add up quickly, wreaking havoc on unsuspecting merchants.
Wow, I never even thought of like hackers bragging and then basically inviting other hackers to kind of come in and commit some more fraud on that particular
Absolutely.
that opening, you know. How can these services help the e-comm business owner?
Well, so Dispute Defense Consulting offers 3 different types of services to our clients. The first one is a boot camp, which teaches the staff how to identify counterfeit materials, both in person with cash, check, credit card, and online through transaction analysis on platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, etc. This, of course, stands to stop fraud before it ever enters the merchant system, reducing the likelihood of chargebacks. Our second service is transaction analysis, outsourced transaction analysis. This service is for merchants who do not have the volume to justify signing up with the flashy automated fraud prevention platforms like NS8, Signified, No Fraud, Forder, Chargebacks 911, any of those guys. The merchant can leave the heavy lifting to my team of fraud analysts, and this allows the merchant to focus on the things they're good at. While we handle the heavy lifting, they can focus on building their brand and things like that, their operational stuff. Our third service is for merchants with more moving parts. So think about Walmart. There's a lot more opportunity for transfers of value that stand to be exploited.
Yeah.
We work with merchants to identify all of their soft spots, prepare them for what is to come, and offer adjustment suggestions towards accurate and efficient policies and procedures, thus resulting in dramatically lower number of chargeback, less losses due to fulfillment delays, mishaps, amongst many other items, and policies to ensure a defense against friendly fraud.
And you just mentioned friendly fraud, and then earlier you mentioned friendly fraud. I guess, what is friendly fraud and what should the average business owner know about it?
So friendly fraud, there's nothing friendly about friendly fraud. So the term friendly fraud can be confusing to those who are not familiar with fraud prevention. Friendly fraud is a type of fraud that happens when a cardholder enacts a legitimate action, but dishonestly leverages their relationship with the issuer to dispute the transaction. E-comm business owners should know that friendly fraud is unconventional and, by virtue of its name, cannot be detected prior to receiving a chargeback. Due to the COVID lockdown that took place earlier this year, many in-store merchants took a step into new territory by accepting payments through payment portals and other card not present processes. Within weeks, the robust network and great minds in the fraud prevention network have identified 2 things. 1, an expected increase in e-commerce volume and sales, and 2, an unexpected and disproportionately high number of chargebacks resulting from a high number of dishonest cardholder disputes. That's friendly fraud. So the best defense against friendly fraud comes from rigorous and ironclad policy adaptations, ranging from service outline progress checks, signature deliveries, credit card verifications, ID verifications, and many more.
Okay, and then what could the value or the ROI look like for, say, a business that needs your services?
That's always a fun question to answer. So what I typically answer that by saying this. Consider one company that I worked with had 52,000 monthly transactions, closed more than 1 million each month, $1 million in transactions each month, ran multiple divisions, but had a 6-month rolling average of about 28,000 in chargebacks per month and adjustments per month. The chargeback codes ranged from fraud to operational inaccuracy, delayed shipments, and more. So now we do the math on that. 28,000 6-month rolling average over the course of a year. $336,000 is the average annual chargeback amount. Now, consider that what the dollar amount that you see in your adjustments or chargebacks is actually multiplied by that number I said earlier, 2.30 to 3.13 times, and you end up with something around $700,000. The high-end average estimates at 1.05 mil, something like that. So within 90 days, the amount, after working with this merchant, within 90 days, the amount dropped to less than 8K monthly average. That's a 6-month rolling average dropping from 28K down to 8K. And there was still plenty of work to do on the operational end to make sure that that number dropped even more after that. So consider how much it costs for me to do that work, and then consider how much over the course of a year you stand to save.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to say what that ROI calculation ends up being, but I think they're pretty good numbers.
Yeah. So if someone were to need your services, do you provide a free consultation?
Absolutely. Every single person, whether they're a hot dog stand on the corner all the way up to Walmart, we can get together and have a 30-minute strategy session or hour. I don't care about the time. We'll have a strategy call. It'll be for free. At the very end of it, I'm going to give you some advice on how to best defend yourself and what things to look forward to.
Okay.
And at the most, maybe we forge a relationship and we start to see some changes immediately.
Yeah, that sounds great. So on top of offering a free consultation, Alex has also written a book on this specific subject. It's called The Fraud Analysis Quick Guide Handbook, which covers multiple topics related to e-comm fraud. Some of the ones we've talked about here on the podcast. Alex has graciously decided to offer a free copy of his book to our audience if they are interested. Be sure to post #fraud if you would like to receive a free copy of this book. Alex, this book is action-packed in regards to this topic. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So this book is intended to be a primer for anybody who's either already into fraud prevention, looking to develop their plan and haven't, or have developed their plan and just want some more additional insight. This book is 18 pages, very short read. And like you said, it's action-packed. It covers everything from the anatomy of physical payment methods like cash, check, IDs, credit cards, the security features that are involved with each one, tricks and tips on how to validate each one, and then also it goes into explaining what the e-commerce environment is all about, what chargebacks are, the various forms of exploits, and yeah, it pretty much serves, anybody can pick up this book, read it real quick, and gain some knowledge regarding how to develop their defense against the various forms of fraud.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that. I would like to thank Alex for taking time out of his busy schedule, coming on the show and sharing his expertise. Be sure to post any questions or comments below. Let us know if there's a topic you'd like to have discussed on the show. Comment below or email educatingyourmoney@gmail.com. And if you are interested in receiving the free copy of Alex's book, The Fraud Analysis Quick Guide Handbook, be sure to post #fraud below. If any of our viewers wanted to get a hold of you, Alex, how can they reach you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, so is my company, Dispute Defense Consulting. Additionally, you can reach me at Alexander@DisputeDefenseConsulting, or give me a call, 702-665-3941.
Thanks for watching Educating Your Money podcast, where it's not just about making money, but about educating money. See you next Monday for the next episode. Be sure to stay safe, everyone, and healthy. Thank you.
Edu